Well, thank you guys for joining in. Really amazing to have you all in this webinar. And we are sure that you will have a lot of, insights, perspectives, thoughts, and reflections to ponder upon. And there will be a lot of some amazing conversations, happening in this 1 hour period of time. So we actually shared a, questionnaire with all of you, and really excited to see what kind of questions have come in. And the idea was to, share those questions with Anil so that he directs his, whole webinar accordingly so that he can address a lot of them. And at the same time, meanwhile, I'm sure that while the conversations are going on, you will have a lot to share and a lot to share, a lot of questions that might come in. So please do keep sharing your queries in the chat box. Few do's and don'ts. If you want to, come over on the camera, please, unmute yourself and ask those questions. And if you're already traveling, would request you to post your questions on the chat box so that it doesn't disrupt the flow of the webinar. Right? Thank you so much. Just to start with, so yes, this webinar is for leadership agility, and it will be, hosted by me, Sandeep Rai. I take care of the enterprise sales. I head enterprise sales for Mirac, and I will take you through a very brief intro that's what Mirac is into, so that you understand us better and what we bring onto the table as far as thought leadership and L&D related brainstorming sessions. That's what we bring on to the table, right? Yeah. So with Mirac, well, Mirac is a Greek word coming from Miraki, which means doing something by your soul. And that's what we believe in. That's the kind of value that we have been able to provide to all our clients, and that's what we strive for. With Mirac, we are into this business now for the last 10 years. And in the last 10 years, I mean, we provide L&D solutions across learning, coaching, certifications, assessments. I mean, you can see the slides that, what all various offerings that we provide. Well, in terms of the statistics, today we are the largest coaching company in the country and the most impactful learning services provider as well. We ourselves have created more than 2,500 plus coaches across the globe. We manufacture 300 plus coaches every year. We have empaneled more than 350 plus coaches across 150 plus corporates, across various business coaching, executive coaching, transition coaching offerings. And while we have been doing such an transformational work with coaching, I mean, a lot of CHROs and senior leaders wanted us to do something great in learning and development interventions as well. And that's where we forayed into this piece. And today we have been able to train more than 9,000 plus employees across 100 plus organizations. And the NPS for all our learning interventions has stood apart, which is 72 plus throughout as compared to industry standard of 32, 35, So that's what we have been able to achieve consistently. Well, however, just a brief about us. Well, and I will, this is our coach as a service platform in various Mirac LXP, which, helps us to track and monitor the various learning interventions, and we are able to achieve and measure the ROE and ROI of various interventions. And that's what we have been able to do differently for various corporates. Yeah. And now coming to the actual topic, which we have been waiting for. So our man of the hour, Mr. Anil Santhapuri, he himself heads the Academy for Management and Leadership Excellence at TVS Motor Company, comes with more than 21 plus years of experience in talent management, learning, leadership development. Himself is an ICF ACC certified coach, CLA accelerator, Wharton alumni, psychometrics administrator. Few of the things which we could share and what we did research for him. I'm sure there is a lot to share. And he himself is a 3-time Brandon Hall judge, 4-time Brandon Hall and CLO award winner, lifetime learner, passionate about leading the future of work, and an ardent Vipassana practitioner. Well, and when we spoke to Anil, he said that leadership agility is something very closest to his heart, that he has been driving across various organizations, across IT organizations where he has worked, and that's where he would want to share his thoughts, perspectives, and would really want to support in navigating the conversations around that. So handing over the baton to Anil, so that he can take it forward, and really happy to answer your queries while going forward with this webinar. Just to share, the last 15 minutes will be the Q&A, but feel free to keep sharing your questions. We will keep answering in between as Anil feels comfortable. And in the last, we will share a feedback report with you on your email ID and on your phone number. You can, as time permits, please do share your feedback. We'd be happy to hear your thoughts. So thank you so much for joining in. Over to you, Anil. I'm sure, please take it forward.
Thank you, Sandeep. Thanks a lot for the introduction. So thanks a lot for inviting me, and I'm happy to be here. Let me quickly share my screen. I have made few slides. Can I get a confirmation that you're able to see my slides?
Yes, we can see your slides.
Sure. No, thank you. So you did some bit of introduction, and I'll see if I can bring some of those points together. But in your introduction, what I liked was you used the word Miraki. I didn't know that it's bringing your soul to, whichever place you go. That is wonderful. Two other words I really liked was NPS. As learning and HR professionals, doing a net promoter score is wonderful. And congratulations, you guys seems to be doing good with the net promoter score. And finally, you use the word, most people talk a lot about ROI, but you also spoke about ROE, which is return on expectation. So thanks for bringing that up. And you kind of demonstrated by asking questions, collecting questions from the participants. So looking forward to connect with all of you. Feel free to start interacting through the chat. I'll ask Sandeep to, I take pauses in between. I'll ask Sandeep to pause me if there are any question, comment, or feedback. I went through some of your comments, not all of them though, because I also want to try my agility a little. So, and it's also a busy day. So talking about busy days, I'm sure most of you, all of you had a busy day, and it's not going anywhere, right? So let's get started. So what I'll try to do today by end of this session, start with a couple of definitions of leadership agility, and I'm kind of play around with the word a little. We'll start with leadership agility, but bring it more closer to all of us by talking about a very parallel concept, learning agility, which is very close to my heart, and the facets of it. Then, yeah, I'll put up a framework there because it's easy to relate for all of us, have a mental model. But what I'll try to do is share my own personal examples and some of the work I've been doing last couple of years. And then as I do that, I invite all of you to start reflecting on your own journey. And then it would be great to hear from you through the chats and comments. So that's what we intend to do today. So to give all the due credit while it's due, so most of the concepts I'm going to refer to today have been borrowed from these sources. So Leadership Agility book by Bill Joyner and Stephen Josephs, the entire learning agility research work done by Korn Ferry, including a book called Becoming Learning Agility, and they have series of assessments from Korn Ferry. There's a reference to World Economic Forum Skills of Future report. There's also reference to infographic about growth mindset by Carol Dweck, and also a reference to an organization which I want to point all of you to go and do a self-assessment later, called Global Curiosity Institute. So that's the content. Now, when you look at this image, it's a giveaway, but forget the text on the right hand side. So, but I love this image because visual speaks a lot of stories, right? So when you look at this image, I'll tell you what stood out for me is there's a person, I think, using camera, clicking pictures, right? But the view is fragmented. The view is getting distorted and fragmented, right? There's multiple images of the person, and so kind of doing a visual echo in a way. And in essence, that's the kind of world we are living in, right? And we're all fed up with these words. We have been, after pandemic, right? VUCA world, and then came the Bani world, BANI. There's also RUPT, RUPT, you can look it up. But what's interesting is VUCA is not a new concept. When the concept of VUCA was started by US Army back in almost in the fag end of Cold War. So world has always been volatile, uncertain, so on and so forth, but it's getting more and more volatile, right? At least from a pandemic and post-pandemic perspective, there's disruption everywhere. And I'm not talking more about that here, but clearly socioeconomic trends are changing. our own preferences after pandemic. I've evolved a lot as a human, and what I value, what I don't value in a post pandemic world. And we see all these terminologies, right? The great resignation, the talent tsunami, you only live once, YOLO. Then there's also FOMO, and people flip between FOMO and you only live once. So much things are happening, right? So it has always been a volatile and a VUCA or a bunny or a rupt world. So disruption is everywhere. The disruption is caused by socioeconomic changes, health, technology, and then, and it's not going to change. So, I mean, as mundane as it sounds, change is constant, right? So it's not changing. Like, I had a busy day today. And was it exactly the day I planned? No. And for most of you, if I checked, if I had time, did a quick poll, you would also say most of your day didn't go the way it's supposed to go. And it's not a blur. It's not a uh, you know, it's not an error in the system. The system itself is disrupting, right? So we'll have to accept it. And that's like a constant theme. And that's where I'll also try to connect dots to when we spoke about, when Sandeep was talking about my profile, he said, right, he also does Vipassana meditation. So personally, for me, doing that mindful meditation, I'll talk more later when it comes up, helps me to stay grounded. Things are changing, things are always changing. So what does it mean? But in the context of this topic, the two words, right? There's leadership, there's agility. So things are disrupting. Now, what does it mean for a leader? And then what does it mean for a leader to be agile? And like we'll have to look at it perspective. But first we have to accept the reality. If we don't accept the reality, we can't move any forward. So that's my first invitation to all of you. We have to accept the reality we live in. So to quickly set up some mental models, so it's easy to visually appreciate what we're thinking, and most of you might be familiar with, but I'll introduce two models as I mentioned in the content source. So this is from the book Leadership Agility. What I really like is the visual, it's so easy to internalize and interpret, right? So first let's look at the three axes. So there's axis of self-awareness and intent, and that's what I was talking in the earlier slide. Extreme self-awareness and connected to see something, the changes are happening outside, and then realizing that it's actually affecting you. And then creating an intent of being going with the flow is one axis. Then the time and systems perspective. Third is empathy and curiosity. I'll touch upon this, but time and systems perspective is a very interesting one. And this book, Fifth Discipline by Peter Senge is one of my favorite and one of the toughest reads ever. I've been actually reading the book for over a decade now, and each time I stumble on a page, something Peter Senge says there, and then I leave the book, I start reflecting and start seeing how that goes in my life. And very interesting parallel. Sandeep spoke about coaching and spoke about my ACC certification. I was ACC certified in coaching in 2009. And then after that, I kind of paused and said, hey, it's easy to go through one certification after another, ACC, MCC, PCC. But what I would like to do is internalize what it means to be a coach. And for me, the yardstick is, I'm kind of sharing a story, I'll come back here. For me, the yardstick is, am I able to do it with my team members on my daily interactions at work? Am I able to take a coaching approach with my kids at home? If I'm not able to do that consistently, then it's easy to get all the certifications. But being a coach is very important to me from my value system. So I kind of paused and then stayed in the zone of self-awareness and intent. And over time, it builds this perspective, right? So again, systems thinking is a very beautiful concept. And I'll take a simple example. In simple systems, I'm sitting in a room here, there's a light glowing and there's a switch. We all know I turn on the switch, the light turns on with not too much of lag. But in a real system, to build on the analogy, I turn on a switch here on the wall. I don't know which light it's going to glow in the building, and I don't know at what time. Typically, in a broader system perspective, things build over time. So it's a function of time and space. So also is our wisdom. Wisdom. It's easy to build knowledge, but to translate knowledge to wisdom, it's a function of time and space, and it comes through experiences, right? So therefore, you see the progression. I'm an expert. I become an achiever. I become a catalyst in terms of agility as a leader. But expert is my knowledge, my functional expertise through which I can drive change. My zone of impact is a smaller cone in yellow, and I'm becoming a leader in my own, bringing my thought leadership, so on and so forth. My zone is increasing because my self-awareness, intent, the time perspective, and my empathy and curiosity is increasing. Finally, to truly have your impact as a agile leader, you need to turn to a catalyst. And what's interesting about the third axis, empathy and curiosity, as you start, doing this exploration with me, is we also need to accept there's a lot of unknowns out there. So I don't know how 60 of you are going to, interpret what I'm going to say. I don't know what type of questions are going to come to my way. So I can either be scared about it, be worried about it, or go with a curious mindset to see, let's see where it lands. Let's see how it lands and what can I learn from it. And also have a little bit of that confidence saying, I know I'll be fine. I don't have to uh, come on top always, or, there's a bit of that vulnerability, right? So it's a beautiful three-axis. Self-awareness, intent starts from there. Wisdom, how to translate your experience to wisdom, living in a VUCA, Bani, disrupted world, how to build that wisdom. Empathy and curiosity is, empathy is more interpersonal. Curiosity has three dimensions. I'll touch upon that little later. So this is like a very interesting framework. And I will pause here and ask each one of to reflect in your own personal journey of leadership agility. Which part of the cone are? And also are these three levers. Are you using it well? Are you leveraging these three levers? It's a good self-reflection to have. For example, in my own case, I think I can be more curious more often. I'll tell you my own story when I went through an assessment. Time and system perspective is a factor of time. So factor also the place you are in. I think self-awareness, I generally do a good job. That's where my Vipassana practice comes in. But hopefully you kind of start looking at there, because you're a leader. The whole concept is leadership agility. So you need to increase your scope of impact. And that's why the cone keeps widening up and growing bigger. So that's my wish for all of you. Wherever you are, you continue on the journey from good to great on these three axes. So let's keep this at the back of our mind as one framework. I'm also keeping an eye on time. I have another 25 minutes to cover my content. Then because I have to have a good interaction with all of you. So the other framework which I've used more consistently, more often in my work is the learning agility framework by Conferry. It's also in a book, as I mentioned, Becoming an Agile Leader. I can quickly show it up to you. It's a brilliant, simple book, but in one of the organizations, I was part of a global fintech organization many years back, where we did a lot of these assessments with senior leaders, especially in the context of transformation. So we're going through significant transformation. We were digitizing the organization in 2015, 2016. And one of the talent perspectives we wanted to do was we had a new set of competencies for the future. So we started saying, hey, how do we ensure we have the right leaders in place from a future perspective? So one of the perspectives we wanted to say is, hey, we are going to deal with a lot of change. Let's look at perspective of our leaders to see how agile are they. And we're talking about a lot of this now before pandemic, but we actually did this in 2017, 2018. So what's very interesting is from this, then, going more below the iceberg. So leadership is something you build with experience, you build with wisdom, but learning agility is like the foundation block. On top of it, you can become an agile leader. So that's why I appreciate this framework a little more. And it has this 5 facets, because it's there's so many definitions of agility. There's also agile process. They do in software, they do in lean management, in manufacturing. We do a lot. So what I like about this is this 5 facets. First one is so easy. I spoke a lot about it, so I'll not talk about it, but self-awareness. And I will actually add a qualifier to it. Uh, Bring in strategic self-awareness, not just self-awareness. We all have self-awareness to some extent, or most of the time, right? But what's the difference between self-awareness and strategic self-awareness? Strategic self-awareness is the intent with which you are being aware about. What's the intent? That's very important. So let's do a quick 30-second activity. Wherever you're sitting in the room, office, car, cabin, look around and try to find objects which are in yellow color randomly. So I have a yellow post-it in front of me. My door looks yellow. There's some um, painting on the wall which is yellow. I think I find like 6 objects, and hope I'm sure you kind of found some objects which are yellow color, yellow shade. Each object you see, you can add a count, like a counter. Now quickly look around the room and find objects which are red in color. So the self-awareness is red. Stop sharing in Zoom is red. There's a yellow pop-up on chat, number 1. In front of me, there's a TV with red, right? I have a brochure in which there's a lot of red color. So I can easily see at least 10, 20 objects with red color. I'm sure you also found quite a few objects. So the question is this, the interesting question is, before you sat down in the room, did you realize that there are actually 10 or 20 in the room I'm sitting? I didn't realize there are like 12 objects with red color. They were always there. But how did I find it now? Because I got intentional. I was looking for red color, I was looking for yellow color. So strategic self-awareness is being very intentional about it, not riding in the autopilot. That's easy, right? Autopilot is your mind takes over. Your strategic intent is you pause and reflect. So that's the first. Without that, nothing and no other agility happens. Self-awareness, strategic self-awareness is very important. Mental agility is to try to solve problems in a different way. I think the easiest analogy to use there is your ability to connect the dots. It's easy to follow the linear way of solving problems. In thinking, we talk about critical thinking and creative thinking. So critical thinking, general definition is trying to find the best possible solution for a problem. Creative thinking is finding as many options as you can find to a problem. So your ability to flex between critical thinking and creative thinking builds your mental agility strengths. So, and again, we use these 2 terms, convergence, divergence, right? So sometimes you have to converge and then you diverge, get more experience. Your ability to move to an abstract level, then come down to something more transactional, move to abstract transaction, and keep flipping back and forth. There are also other analogies we use in coaching, right? If you're on a dance floor and then there's a balcony out there, so you said the dance floor view and the balcony view. In the dance floor view, you are in the action, part of the action, your whole body is engaged, your mind is engaged. But you take a break, go to the balcony and look down at people who are on the dance floor dancing, you get a different view, broader view, right? So your ability to flex between dance floor and the balcony, the trees to the forest to the trees, is essentially the mental agility, and it comes with practice. Then people agility is being generally agile with people. It's like the 2 types of again, the different psychometric tools. I don't want to go there, but let me try one more quick thing. So imagine, no, imagine. Let's start planning to go for a picnic this weekend. All of you start thinking about going for a picnic this weekend. Now, the moment I said start thinking about going for a picnic this weekend, some of you might have hated the idea, so I can't do anything. I apologize. But those who started thinking about picnic, for some of you, the first natural question was, where do I want to go? Others might be why we need to go to a picnic. But there will be few in the group for whom the first thought is, with whom do I need to go to the picnic? Who is going to come with me? I know that's the third type of you out there are people who have natural people agility. You think people first to every solution. And for me personally, also my based on my style and preference, for me, thinking is my first preference. People is second. So sometimes we all overuse our preferences and abilities. So my first preference is always mental agility, thinking. But then when I get stuck over a period, what I've done myself, being again employing strategic um, self-awareness, is to say, hey, your thinking is only taking you so much, although it's a strength, you're overusing it. Now flip it and say, whom can you go to help you move this forward? Then I start thinking people, consciously make that shift intentionally. And that's how over during pandemic, I do have a couple of mentors who have mentored me all through life professionally, but over pandemic also created a you know found series of peer coaches who would coach me. And at one point of time, three peer coaches were coaching me. There's nothing wrong with me, but the whole idea is, you need to know whom to go to quickly rather than getting stuck trying to solve all problems by yourself. So at one point of time, there was the WhatsApp group. All of them are good friends of mine, coaches, certified coaches like most of you, and they were all trying to coach me together. It was so much fun, and the cycle was faster. So ability to think people, and it doesn't come naturally, but your ability to flip is important consciously. That's where intention, the first red, if it doesn't move from there, you'll never move. So change agility, likes to experiment and comfortable with change. I have interesting stories. So in the same organization, when we're doing this huge effort, um, some of us in HR function, global talent leadership function, we got certified, trained to coach others. So first thing you have to do is do your own agility report. And we all have a heightened um, view about ourselves, self-bias, right? So I thought I was always good with change. We all think, right? I'm good with change, problems with others. So I'm generally good with change. I also thought this was like 2016, 2017. But to my utter surprise, in the same five quadrants, my least score was in change agility for myself on my own report. And I was shocked. I thought, I'm so good at change. I deal with change really well. Why is the score low? But then I had to take some time and then cool down and apply self-awareness. Then I realized, and going back to the earlier, the factor of time, right? Wisdom is the factor of time. Now I can say I'm slightly more older for sure, not slightly, I'm older for sure, and probably a little more wiser. I think I can say with a lot of authenticity now that uh, I appreciate change only when it's, aligned to my preferences. So, like most of us, right? Not every change is welcome. Same with me. So, but accepting that fact took time, took fair bit of vulnerability. And I think if I took the assessment today, I'll get a better score because again, I had to go through the cycle of accepting it, living through it. And again, after pandemic, another very interesting work example is first time in the first year of pandemic, when in the organization I was working, we are doing presentation to the president of the organization about what we did that year, so on and so forth. First time ever, at least in my career, uh, I had a slide with two columns. First column was the projects we ran and what's the success of the projects. The second column, I wrote the title, The Experiments We Did This Year. And half of them failed, half of them succeeded. First time in your career, because always go with mindset, the goals assigned to me, I have to make it successful, green, blah, blah, blah. But then pandemic taught all of us this, right? So it's easy to forget. Again, we're moving on with our life. We live in such a disruptive world. Sometimes what's good is your ability to try an experiment. And it's called an experiment for a reason. You don't know which way it's going to turn. So I tried 10 things, five succeeded, five didn't succeed. It would have broken my heart 10 years earlier, 5 years earlier. But then from then on, I keep reminding, even when I talk to my team, I say, hey, there's an experiment. And I tell my boss, I'm doing an experiment, which means this year, I'm going to try something different. Let's see what comes out from it and we'll learn from it. So there's a beautiful, I'm also doing a fair bit of work with uh, digital functions of in my organization in terms of applying agile at scale. There they use a very interesting term called design of experiments. So let's not try something new or create a new offering, new program. Look at what exists and see what can we tweak and do a little bit of A/B testing. So going with the design of experiment mindset is change agility. And the more you try, the more you get better at it. Like there's no secret sauce. And finally, results agility. So if if the results are not coming, you have to try something different. As simple as that. You can't keep uh, trying the same thing, not getting the results. Your ability to somebody said it really well, I think, in the same book, saying one simple, common layman way to describe leadership agility is: do you know what to do when you don't know what to do? So you're in a new situation, then results are not going to come. How soon are you able to accept it and try some of these? Connect the dots. So have a heightened sense of self-awareness, get intentional, connect the dots, try something different, reach out to people. You don't have all the experience the world needs. Have that humility, reach out to people who are experts or have been there, done that, and then do design of experiments. And then maybe you'll get different results, and then try the cycle again in different. So that mindset of, hey, I live in an imperfect world, I live in a world which is disruptive, then an experiment is enough, is what is needed. And sometimes you have great results, sometimes you don't. There are organizations where I've been extremely successful, more than I thought I would be. There are organizations where I've not been as successful as I thought I would be. But all you can do is keep trying. So that's why I love this uh, model. So I invite you to start thinking about this. See, it's easy to say, hey, be agile, try something different, grow mindset. But now you have 5 levers to try, and for yourself, pick the top one, the bottom one, or whatever works for you, right? And see what's going to try differently this time. The green lever, the blue lever, the burgundy lever, or the red lever. So there are actually 5 levers. So that's how I did the flip, right? So when I go too much in my thinking zone, I say, hey, now I need to turn on the people lever, and then turn on experiment lever, and then keep an eye on results. I'm doing all this to get results, not anything else, right? So they're not for fun. So it's fun, but it needs to give results. So it's very important to keep the view. So just again, the cone, move to expert to achiever catalyst, the three um, themes are important. Then the learning agility, the 5 levers is extremely good way to look at agility. Now I'll just move on. Again, now I kind of converged a lot, so I have to diverge a little and say, hey, if it's like, oh, this guy is sharing a lot of his examples, why does it matter? It matters because World Economic Forum published this report of skills of 2025. And what's very interesting is, other than 7, 8, and 14, other than 7, 8, and 14, when you talk about skills of future 2025, rest all are cognitive, analytical, leadership, and people skills. The stuff we have been talking about: complex problem solving, active listening, empathy, analytical thinking. So, so it's good that ChatGPT is out there making us more productive, because we have to spend time doing this. And of late, I've been using Copilot, ChatGPT a lot. So this is what the world needs. This is the world of work needs. So how do we first embrace it ourselves? Because it's a VUCA world, we need complex problem solving. You need to do critical thinking for mental agility. And to deal with that self-awareness and deal with that experiments, you need resilience, stress tolerance, flexibility, reasoning, problem solving, ideation, and start with emotional intelligence, then, persuasion, negotiation. And I love number 6. And this is where I introduced the term meta skill. I really love the term. And again, I didn't introduce, but I borrowed it shamelessly. Most of things written here are meta skills. And the great way to define a meta skill is, it's going to take a lifetime to master it. You can't become a leader overnight. You can't have emotional intelligence overnight. You can't become a complex problem solver overnight. So this takes lifetime of focus and effort. Therefore, going back to the cone and the 3 axes, which means, we need to get at it. There's no perfect answer, right? But as long as you're on the journey and moving from good to great consistently, this is why it's important, what I mentioned earlier, because, this report, they've been updating the report. They published in 2021, 2023, 24, and most of the top 15 didn't change. So it's interesting. And if you're HR professionals, L&D professionals, practitioners, consultants, coaches working for organizations, where is your organization, or where are your clients investing their L&D budgets in? You'll be surprised to see not in most of these. Maybe 7, maybe a little bit of 6. So it's very interesting, right? So I'll move on. Hopefully, some food for thought. Now picking on that, again, in such a disruptive world, it's easy to get distracted. Those terms: fear of missing out, FOMO, you only live once, YOLO. There's a lot of this phenomena going out, right? So how do you anchor yourself when there's so much disruption happening? And I'm trying to now again come together. So be on a journey of meta skills, and some of them are, I think, agility we discussed, emotional intelligence really helps, growth mindset. We all know growth mindset, right? I'll show in quick slide. And then be curious. Remember, in one of the access, curiosity came up, and I'll touch upon that in the following slide. So again, terms used a lot, right? Growth mindset, be curious, but we'll make it very pointed so you can actually start thinking and acting about it. And then what's very important is to ground yourself in knowing heightened self-awareness, strategic self-awareness. What do you stand for? If you don't know what your values are, personal values, therefore your values define your boundaries, it's so easy to get distracted and troubled with everything happening around you. But if you know what you stand for, what you believe in, it's easy to make choices personally, professionally. So first know your values, know your strengths, then know your purpose. Obviously, it will grow from there. So I'll not spend too much time. I'm sure all of us are very familiar with the great work done by Carol Dweck, and read the book Mindset if you haven't. Clearly, fixed mindset is believing you're born with a natural talent, or there's only one way to solve problems. Growth mindset is you do experiments and learn from your failures. Most important phrase to remember is when you don't get the output you are anticipating, use the word not yet. Don't say I'm a failure or things didn't work, say not yet, which means it didn't happen yet in this point of time, but it's going to come up. And you start applying those 5 elements of agility to move forward. So that's about mindset. This is where I'll spend little time, and a beautiful resource called Global Curiosity Institute. If you go there, they should have a free assessment now. Or there was a free assessment before. Check out if they're still doing a free assessment. There's a lot of work done in the space of curiosity, but this assessment further built on the research and simplified it. So how do you know you're curious? It's in 3 ways. First, you're curious about yourself, self-awareness, emotional intelligence. Then you're curious about the world, how the world is operating around you. The third piece is you're curious about people. Again, you can see how it's reflecting, right? The people agility, so on and so forth. So generally we are curious, but probably in one or two of these levels, not all of them. So do the assessment, do the report, and then see where you're good at, what comes naturally, and then consciously, intentionally start picking on the cues and building the curiosity quotient. And to do all that, all we need is to swallow the be a little humble, right? We can't know all the answers. So first you need to be a little humble, then get curious, or else you're only listening to answer for questions, but not listening to understand and comprehend. So I highly recommend go and take that assessment, Global Curiosity Institute. Hopefully it's still free, but it's worth it. I've done my assessment a couple of years back, and see where I stand, and consciously uh, demonstrating strategic self-awareness to see what does it mean to me. So professionally, another tool which I've personally used for many years and use in my coaching, I'm sure all of you are familiar, is the Career Anchors by Edgar Schein. Unfortunately, very recently he passed away, so condolences to him. But did this beautiful work of this 8 career anchors. And what I really like about it is, since the day first time I took my career anchors assessment, I've been able to make very conscious, intentional career choices. My top 3 career anchors are entrepreneurial creativity, EC, autonomy and independence, AU, and third is service and dedication to a cause, SV. And what's very important is, let's say at some point of time I'm doing a job role, I have another job opportunity in my current role, and I have another opportunity from the industry in another company. I can get attracted by the title, the salary, the money, so on and so forth, which we all go through. But when I look back, and I've done this assessment 12, 13 years ago, first time, and used it consistently on myself and in my coaching, I've realized I've been extremely successful when my need of autonomy, independence was met in the organization, the roles I played. Whereas given the freedom to demonstrate my entrepreneurial creativity. And when I was able to connect my work to a larger vision of the organization. When 3 of them fall in place, I had wonderful experience. I enjoyed the journey. There are great results also. And when at least 2 of them fell in place, I I did decent work. But if autonomy gets obstructed, sometimes autonomy, I realize, balances with the need for service. But if 2 of them are not aligned, I don't enjoy what I do at all. So now this becomes the anchor and rubric, plus my personal values of how I evaluate a job opportunity, team, or a manager to work with. and not just the brand title, money, so on and so forth. And that has given me a lot of strategic, you know, self-awareness, which made me realize in what conditions, in what situations will I be extremely successful. So another tool I highly recommend each one of you give it a try and use it with your clients if you're into coaching, and it also helps you understand the other person really well. So for example, for my spouse, lifestyle is her number one, and a good friend of mine, pure challenge. When things go bad, things don't, and when the crisis hits, when everybody is like uh, worried and doesn't know what to do, he's like rubbing his hands and like, yeah, now I can jump in and take care of things. So also figuring out how each one of us with our different preferences can step in and work as a high performing team is also very, very, very important. So just wanted to touch upon that. I'm also keeping an eye on time. I have another minute or two. So if you have a piece of paper in front of you or mobile phone, which all of you should have, just write 2 to 3 things on these 2 things based on what you heard from me so far. What you already knew about yourself or about the world got reinforced, 2 to 3 things, and what might have surprised you about yourself, about the world, or about people. So take 30 seconds, write it down. That might lead to some questions, conversations, which we'll have another 16 minutes to have a conversation on. And then I invite you, um, the big takeaway I invite you is after you build this sense of self-awareness, you know, if not today, tomorrow, or sometime during this weekend, sit down and say, hey, to go on a journey of good to great for myself on learning agility, leadership agility, what are 5 bold steps I'm going to take? And they need to be, so do the first draft and trash it, write it again, because what you write for the first time will not be bold enough. Trash the second also, then make it as bold as you can. Something new, something different. If not, if not uh, five, three, you know, 3 bold steps, and then act on it. And that's when there's more value to what Mirak is doing, what I'm doing, what all of you are doing on the call, because you need to act, right? Act, get intentional on your action. So that's what I wanted to cover, and I'll kind of pause there and then turn it to Sandeep to see if there are any questions. My favorite quote, all-time favorite, it's on uh, main door at home inside. So each day I the walk out of my home. When I open the door to step out, this is what there is on. This is the poster. The best way to predict the future is to create it, which means get intentional. If it means building learning agility or leadership agility for yourself, your clients, your team members, your family members, get intentional about it. And hopefully something you heard over last 35, 40 minutes might have helped you make some new connections, reinforce something, surprised you, and then take a very curious approach to it and see what 3 to 5 whole steps you can take today, this week, this month to move from good to great on your journey of learning and leadership agility. So thank you. I'll pause there and turn it over to Sandeep to help us walk through any questions we might have earlier or now. I'll be happy to respond to those. So Sandeep, over to you.
Yes. Thank you, Anil, for such a wonderful session. Really lovely to hear you, and a lot of thoughts and reflections while you were sharing. And I think something that connected with me was, I think I already was thinking that what are few reinforcements which I'm thinking, and the 2 things that came up to me was strategic agility. That while in this day-to-day life we are working on various agile stuff, but can you take a moment to pause and reflect and ensure that how you're moving forward, what strategies work for you, and a amazing exercise that you never get into a room and know that there are so many red colors and yellow colors, right? You never think about this.
Now, if you're a facilitator or a consultant, that's a trick you can do in all of your sessions. So it's fun. I do it always. Yeah.
So that was really amazing. And the last point that you talked about was the career anchors, which kind of I personally have been hearing a lot, but never thought so deeply that how I should be using those as a career anchor, and what motivates me, what inspires me, and where I can, actually see my possible fit, where I could be the best performer. So I think that's second thing that really stays with my heart in this. And two surprises, amazing. Never thought that experiment as a word will surprise me so much. So it's a very normal word which we keep using in day-to-day life, but it has such a deep meaning. Like when you mentioned that, you experiment, and that's what experiment means. You don't know what is going to
You
happen.
don't know the
That's-
outcome. Yeah, you don't know the outcome. That's when it's an experiment. So, yeah.
So that was a great surprise. And second thing, what surprised me was about the growth mindset that you were talking about, that, even if things are not going, and how you're evaluating yourself. And rather than, going down, you say not yet. And
Yes.
doing that, how to move forward.
So,
So I
so
think,
if you read the
yeah,
book by Carol Dweck, it's actually the work she has done, right? She was working with high school kids in a government school, and when kids failed the exam, that's what she printed on the certificate, not yet the status of the exam, and that turned the school around to the second or the third best school in the whole state. It's a brilliant story. You should read the book. Yeah.
yeah, great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Anil. I think, and I'm sure that I will, work on those 5 points that you mentioned. I will need some time to, to ponder upon, and I will surely have some action points for myself. So, guys, I hope, I'm sure you would have enjoyed the session. Please feel free to post questions on the chat box. If you would want to ask to Anil himself, please, come on the camera and ask your questions. Happy to, hear your queries, and I'm sure that Anil will share his thoughts and reflections on that.
Yes. Can I also I'm reading some comments here. Can I also respond to
Yeah.
some of them?
Yes.
There's one question by Shatish, I think. Who's your top inspirational leader, and what are your go-to research material and books that have pivoted your personal and professional side? The many people who inspire, but a mentor who I met accidentally, who became a life mentor for me, is a gentleman called Ed Cohen. He currently lives in States, but has been a huge influence on me. In fact, I met him when I was living in Australia. Then I applied for a job. He was working in India, incidentally, an American working in India, and I was an Indian working in Australia. I met him. I was so impressed by him. Then I moved to India to work for him, and that's how I moved to the HR and learning field. So somebody who's inspired me, keeps mentoring me over time. What research material do I go to? ResearchGate. I have a login access in ResearchGate. I use it. But also personal side, The Prophet by Khalil Gibran is my all-time favorite book. I always carry it in my bag. I've read it like 50 times or 100 times, but I keep going back and reading it. Uh, Prophet by Khalil Gibran. Each time I read, something new connects. So I just want to answer that, but Sunday Poetry. And I also see a few hands raised. So maybe if people want to ask questions, they can also unmute the mic and ask
Hi,
the
Anil.
questions.
Hi, Anil.
Yeah.
Nariman here. Can I?
Yes, please.
Hi. Sorry, I'm unable to type anything because, as you can see, I'm on the road
Yes,
in the car. Thank you very much. Awesome session. I mean, so much learning, and I just love the concepts of the cone and the agility, levers, and everything you talked about. Thank you so much. One quick question is, Anil, that the 5 levers you talked about, the agility levers, they are very, very powerful. I mean, you were talking about them, and I was just reading them. It just kind of gave me a sense of power and effectiveness. But how does one in real life translate it into action, or flip, as you mentioned, when one is working under highly pressurized work environments? Pressurized may be toxic, or maybe highly time bound, high pressure work environments. How would how would these 5 levers, uh, can it be used, or
sure.
in such a situation? Thanks.
No, brilliant. I think again a brilliant question. So I'll try to address it in two perspectives. So we all go through pressure, but some amount of pressure is good, but you also use the term toxic. So sometimes pressure over a period of time is not healthy, and we all know where to draw the line. So we all take the judgment call. But pressure is good because then you know it's time to do an experiment, because what you're doing is not enough. You have to try something different, right? So when you're feeling like most of us drive, right, a two-wheeler or a four-wheeler, so we're all comfortable riding at a specific speed limit. And sometimes due to being late, or you find a, a empty road, you accelerate. And once you
Yes.
accelerate a certain, when you go beyond the speed limit, you feel it in your body. Till then you felt safe and comfortable, but beyond a certain speed limit. And for me, 90 is that speed limit. You feel that excitement in your body, and you know you're not safe, but there's a little bit of that excitement and energy. So you have to be aware of that. When you're trying to do something different, move to that zone. And driving your car is a good example to give, where the pressure helps you to try something different. You're not safe, but still in control. So consciously you have to get there. Sometimes having a mentor helps, having a coach definitely helps to make the move. And then the other way I'll answer, feel comfortable to get coaching and advice from people, and also support of people who work around you. Having a mentor or a coach or a peer buddy at work definitely helps, and having an executive coach really helps. Now, but where do you draw the line between stress and toxic goes back to your personal values. Let your values decide when enough is enough. Because as a leader, if you don't put your foot down on where enough is enough, then you're not a leader at all. So there's also that piece of self-awareness. But from application, it's knowing that what I'm doing is not enough and I have to try something different. That mindset, and you have to do it every day. There's no other way, right? How did we all learn how to ride a bike? First time we fell down, second time we fell down, then third time. So that mindset of a kid, we lost it now. We have to bring it back. So yeah. And the best way to
Thank
do
you
it,
very much.
and the best way to do that is watch young people, watch youngsters. I look at my 7-year-old every day, and it's fun. One moment she's screaming, other moment she's laughing, and then so those are people around you who can inspire you also. So tag along people who bring the best out of you, who inspire you. That's also important, right? So
Thank you.
thank you, and safe driving. So Sandeep, I think we have a few more minutes. Any other questions you would want me to take?
Yeah, so we have a question from Ken. So he's asking, as an external viewer, we have
Oh yeah,
seen
I read the
TVS.
question. I'll take the
Yeah.
question if it's fine. So thank
Yeah.
you. And so I mean, obviously, most of the views I presented here are my own, but obviously happy to share about the work we're doing at TVS Motors. So TVS Motors has a corporate university called Institute of Quality and Leadership, which has a couple of academies. And just a year back, I joined, and we're building this leadership academy as we speak. So we've done a lot of leadership work before too. And obviously, you can see it in our results, our products. But last 1 year has been extremely fun and serious work, because we're actually building leaders significantly for the future. So as we speak, middle of a lot of actions, we're partnering with uh, well-known names, India globally, to kind of bring the best of talent and skills for our leaders. And we, just like most people, we put people through journeys and learn and leadership experiences. And nothing is just a classroom training, everything runs for a journey for 6 to 8 months, so on and so forth. So we started doing a lot of good work, but also, there's a lot of more work to do. But clearly that's the anyway agenda of the role I play, is to build management and leadership excellence, those three words. And also been very interesting, because before this, I worked in a IT industry and fintech industry. Also, I'm also again, wisdom is a factor of time, right? Learning the difference between management and excellence, and leadership also. It's been a very interesting journey. We can connect offline also to talk more about that. So uh, thanks for the question. Maybe time for one or two more questions, Sandeep.
Yeah, I will share the question.
Yeah, hi, Anil, Amit this side.
Yeah, Amit.
Yeah. So but you mentioned about the mindset aspect, right? So in a highly result oriented or process oriented environment, sometimes the mindset at senior level and mid level becomes very difficult to break with the kind of process they have been following for several years, and this everyone must be facing in their own organization. And when you come up with the change, that expectations and the actual result, there is a gap, and when you try to solve, there is an imbalance between the management and the leadership which you are handling. So as a uh, HR leader or as a
It's a
leadership, how
great
do you
question.
handle that practical?
Yeah, no, it's a brilliant question, Amit. I think the best way to, I mean, I'll try to answer it in two, three different ways. So the best way to, in a process-driven culture, show the need for change is data. You have to show it through data, fact-based, impact on quality, impact on customers. Nothing better than data which speaks for itself. So you have to do the homework and bring it. Now, the second piece is once that you have the doorway of having open, the door gets open to make the conversation, then you need to, I'll go back to this again. So let me go back here and try to answer your question in this way. So demonstrating heightened self-awareness to say what's the best way to, in a process-centric culture, and I found, let's say the answer is data. Then what type of data I need to collect and which data makes sense to people? How do I connect the dots? Demonstrating mental agility. Now, to build this use case, to go to the senior management, who are the people who will stand by me and watch for me, and who are the people, the leadership lizards to whom I can rally around, who are the people who can rally around me? Ask yourself the question, people agility. And then you just don't go with the problem, you go with the solution. So you bring a solution mindset saying, hey, this is what we see, but can we try one, two, three? One is a simple change, incremental change. Two is probably slightly more, little more risk. We try something different. And three is something breakthrough, something completely gone breaking. So at least you show options, but you go with the solution mindset and not a problem mindset. And
Got
then
it.
if once they agree what to do, then you make it happen, results. So I'm trying to use the framework to answer your question. So, but what's not written here, to take that experiment, to do the
Yeah.
experiment needs leadership courage, and which only you can, or whoever is in the situation has to gather. And that's all our personal leadership journey. Wherever we are, we need to have the courage to make the first step. And that's the leadership in the agility. This is the agility story. Leadership is within us, right? So we have to gather
Yeah.
that courage. So yeah.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Amit. So we're top of the hour here. So Sandeep, I'll turn it over to you for
Yeah.
wrap up, but thank you. Really enjoyed being here. So
No, thank you, Anil. Thank you for giving us your time. It was a wonderful session, and I'm sure our thoughts and minds are still wrapping around a lot of things that you have shared, and we will have a lot of things to think upon and work on ourselves. Thank you so much, Anil. Thank you for this. Thank you everyone for joining in. Please do share your feedback. We will be sharing it on your email ID and phone numbers. You can just share your responses, and we will keep working on ourselves and keep bringing you such kind of insightful and refreshing sessions forward. So
Thank you.
thank you all.
thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Anil. Bye bye. Take care. Thank you, everyone.